0.58% and the city 0.87%. This is, remember, at some points they were saying, oh, it might be as high as 3.4%. Remember that? Those the projections. Anyway, I'm here to weigh in on it. Dr. Oz, part of our medical aid team. I want America to understand this because I've really gotten to be friends with him and know him. He is up 24 hours a day looking for the best treatment, as he says, the Army we have, not the ones we wish we had, and involved in personal cases and doing shows and on in the morning and on here. This is your calling. God made you for this, and I applaud you and your commitment to all of this, and thank you for what you do.
Well, you're very kind to say that. I was interested in this study today because there have been some antibody studies done in the past, but I've got to hand it to Howard Zucker, health commissioner, and Governor Cuomo. They really worked together with the feds to get the most accurate antibody test results they could. And just so everyone understands what they did, they stood outside of big box stores, grocery stores, and they got 3,000 New York State residents to allow them to take some blood and run these antibody tests. And just so you're all clear, this is different from figuring out if you're infected. These are designed to figure out if you were infected sometime in the past. We don't know when. And specifically, they identified that there were 10 times more people who have been infected than have tested positive, confirmed for COVID-19. And that's an important point because and that's less than they saw in the California studies, but we think it's pretty accurate. And so, yes, it might influence mortality rates, as were highlighted by the governor today. But I just want to emphasize a few things. New York City, you pointed out 21%. Part of the reason for that was because the illness almost certainly started earlier in New York. We now have evidence that it may have happened the beginning of February. Long Island was 17% out where you are. Westchester, 12%. But the rest of the state was only 4%. So within New York State, you sort of have a biopsy of the entire country, rural areas, urban areas. And I want to emphasize two things. The first is, it doesn't mean you can go back to work if you have antibodies, because we don't know the duration of the antibodies, how long you'd be safe, and there's some reports from Korea about reinfection. The other big question I want everyone to think about is why is it that you had these people, 10 times more than we know reported cases, who either didn't have a lot of symptoms, didn't know they had symptoms, or had no symptoms? So what's the difference? And there was another breaking news piece today. Northwell, big hospital system in New York, shared their results, a large number of patients, and they found that 88% of the patients that got admitted to the hospital there had at least 2 comorbid conditions, like high blood pressure, diabetes, or elevated body mass index, in other words, overweight. And so the wake-up call for us might be, hey, listen, let's make sure we focus on folks who have these comorbidities, make sure they're not getting sick, because they're the ones who go to the hospital and they really get ill, and maybe help them get past those comorbidities, because if you're home watching right now, that ought to be your most patriotic move. Try to lose a little bit of weight, get your blood pressure down, get your diabetes more in control, work with your docs on this stuff, because that might be one of the best ways for you to change the national history. God forbid you get COVID-19.
Dr. Oz, thanks for your commitment to what you do. You are you personally are helping people stay healthy. Great advice. We turn now to the country of China. Their despicable communist dictatorship now facing worldwide condemnation over its constant and deadly stream of lies. We've been telling you all about it. Here's our Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who joins us. Mr. Secretary, I've seen a lot. I wrote a book, Deliver Us from Evil, 2004. Talked about over 100 million people killed in the last century alone. And I look at this, and when they stopped travel from Wuhan to the rest of China, from China to Wuhan, but they left it open internationally. Then they scooped up all of the protective gear and now profiteering, and then they kept the virus and lied to the world, and it hurt all of us. And all these people dying, when you said to me you would have helped them, I am so angry, words cannot describe my anger.
Yes, Sean, that's appropriate that you're angry. I think many of us are angry. I know the president feels the same way. China caused an enormous amount of pain, loss of life, and now a huge challenge for the global economy and the American economy as well, by not sharing the information they had. Sean, you should know we still don't have full transparency from the Chinese Communist Party. I'm so concerned that there are things we don't know. We don't know the history. We haven't been able to get our team on the ground to do the work that it needs to do. This is an ongoing challenge, and the Chinese Communist Party and the World Health Organization have failed to do the things they have responsibility to do when there's a pandemic inside of their country.
Okay, now the question is, how do we get them to make up for this, make good on this? Now, they do hold a lot of our debt. Look, I'm not involved in what you do. You're a lot smarter than me, number one in West Point. Okay, so I will cede this territory to you. My feeling is we shouldn't pay it back. Maybe that's impossible.
Sean, I am very confident that the Chinese Communist Party will pay a price for what they did here, certainly from the United States. I don't know exactly what form that'll take. Our focus today isn't on that. It's on making sure we keep Americans safe, take down the health risk, keep people healthy as we can, and get this economy going back. But I'm very confident. I talk to business people all around the country. I talk to ordinary citizens, people who have put their lives at risk over the last weeks. They know that this is a result of this virus that originated in Wuhan, China, and they know that the Chinese government didn't do the things it needed to do. There will be a cost associated with that. We need to focus on the here and now, and there'll be a time to make sure that we get this right, to make sure that we're not dependent on China for our pharmaceutical goods and all the things that we've seen that we just didn't have right, and that President Trump had identified early on as things we needed to fix in the relationship between the United States and China.
He knew pretty early, and was probably the loudest critic of China. You probably can't answer this, so I won't waste a lot of time on it. Private conversations, how direct are you and the president being with China?
Very direct. They know precisely what it is that we've observed. We know what they know what we've asked them to do to try and make sure that we don't have an ongoing problem. Remember, Sean, there are multiple virus labs inside of China. We need to make sure we understand what's going on in all of those, the one in Wuhan and elsewhere too. We have to make sure that we don't have this problem yet again coming from China. It's a very dangerous situation. We've made clear our expectations. I've seen the president do it.
Any update on Iran and these ships, these boats, these, wreaking havoc? The president laid out his order very clearly.
This administration behaves totally different than the previous one. You'll recall when they took our Navy sailors, made them kneel down, and Secretary Kerry apologized to get them back. This president's taken a completely different approach. He's told the Iranian regime, enough, we're not going to permit this. We're going to defend our soldiers, our sailors, our airmen and Marines. I think the Iranians understand that as well.
Any update on Kim Jong-un and the reports about his health that you could share? You probably can't, but I got to try.
I appreciate the question. I don't have anything I can share with you tonight, but the American people should know we're watching the situation very keenly.
All right, Mike Pompeo, we always appreciate
Sean, thank you. Have a good evening, sir.
Every time. Have a great evening, sir. All right, when we come back, the president called out the media. Why? Because they're so soft on little quid pro quo, the ever confused, confounded, poor Joe. Lindsey Graham, here's a message for Joe next.